And we are live on YouTube and Twitch and on Instagram. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this last Confluence conference talk of the week. We will be having today a talk about Chinese online science fiction and fantasy. So that's one we were especially excited about. We are having two wonderful guests today with Gwennaël Gaffric, who is he's with us here, and Julie Thobois. Both are French scholars, very active in France. Gwennaël is especially known for having worked hard to promote Chinese SFF on the French speaking area globally, and for being translator of the three-body problem is the thing we know him for at first, and then we went on all other collaborations and talked together. So it's really cool to have you today. And Julie, you are also a scholar in French, researcher in Chinese literatures, and so we were really hoping to be able to have this talk with you two. Please tell me if I missed anything in your presentation.
I'm just starting to research, just trying. So it's my area is just it's biosexual, so it's literally it's the representation of lesbian in online literature. So it's really specific, and what I researched last year was the representation of lesbian in science fiction in online. I'm sorry, my English is really poor right now. I'm just trying to talk.
Don't worry. Well, we are all on equal footings here. And Gwennaël, if you want to add something on my presentation or update.
Nothing special to add, but maybe I can mention the fact that a few years ago, when I was in Brussels, in Belgium, I did some research on Chinese cyber literature. It was mainly about what we call uchronie in French, so like alternate history fiction online. So it was quite great. I mean, to do some research about this, what is actually more than just a literary concept or genre, but something more like social phenomena as well. So, but it's a little bit far from now. So I'm keeping, I keep doing some, some updates about these genres online. But as we will probably talk about, I'm not a very big reader of online literature in Chinese, but I know some things about, so I'm happy to discuss it with you.
I'm happy to, because I read a lot about I read the traduction of Liu Cixin. Well, I read your traduction of the
three-body problem.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's really stressful to talk in English.
Do not hesitate to go slow. And if you have something if you have a problem with a term, do not hesitate to say it in French, and we'll try to help. So really, do not worry. This is family, and we're all being,
Thanks.
We are doing these talks in English, and it's nobody's a native language, so it's the common tongue, for good or worse. So for better or worse. So we are all struggling with it. So yeah, again, thank you for being here. So we usually start off with a kind of aesthetics / funny question to begin the talk. And for this one, I was thinking that if you were a Chinese character sinogram, which one would you be, and why?
Usually you go first if you want.
Oh. At first, I thought it was a Chinese character as Chinese character in science fiction.
Okay.
I thought it was that. It was that.
Okay.
So, but
maybe go on. I mean, it
as
could
a
be very interesting
stenogram,
to know which character you choose.
Yes.
Oh, I thought I read a book, an online book, and I don't remember the title, but there was a character which made me think of Pangmo, the Chinese goddess of oblivion, and she's a guardian of the bridge of reincarnation, and I like the fact that she represents the transition and the delicate balance between remembering and letting go. And I really like this fact that we have to remember and learn to let go everything. So
the goddess
the character that the writer wrote was inspired by Pangmo, and it was described like this.
Okay.
So I identified like that.
Okay.
But
okay, that's great. So
as a sinogram, I think it would be maybe something like no, no, it's complicated.
Don't worry. So again, just to set the mood, Gwennaël, would you have a?
Okay, so I will give you both. I mean, a Chinese sinogram character,
Okay.
and then a Chinese character. Maybe not taken from a science fiction book, but anyway, it's like a genre book, so maybe it's still interesting because it's also connected with maybe what we'll be discussing in a moment. So yeah, if I have to choose Chinese sinogram, maybe I will choose an expression actually that exists in Chinese but not in French, or it is hard to translate. And I very like this expression, which is 辛苦了 in Chinese. So actually, I don't have access to the chat thread, but I can give it to Romain, and then he will share with everyone. 辛苦了 literally, or not literally. Actually, it means the fact that you are thanking someone for the efforts he or she have done. And this idea of, okay, thank you, it was hard. It took you some time to do. And I recognize the fact that, okay, it was not easy, but you still did it. So it's something that is very common in Chinese. If you help people, if you worked hard for people, and we don't have this expression in French. So as translators, it's also quite difficult to translate it well. Or I mean, it is not that hard, but it never translates the same in French. I mean, it really depends on the context. And as we translator all know, context is the key. So yeah, that's an expression that I like a lot. 辛苦了. Sometimes I even use it in French. I mean, among some French words to speak with Chinese speaking people, and that is for the sinogram part. And as if I had to choose a Chinese character or literature character, I think I would be someone whose name is Wei Xiaobo from a book, a novel, which is like The Deer and the Cauldron in English. I think 鹿鼎记 in Chinese. This is a famous wuxia novel by Jin Yong. That is set in early Qing dynasty in China. I will give you the name and maybe the title and the order. Actually, wuxia is a genre, a literary genre, sometimes translated as like martial arts fiction, which is partly true, and sometimes even like swordsman literature, or actually there are many translations to this genre. It's not completely equivalent, and so this character is quite different from other for most wuxia heroes. Most wuxia heroes are like noblemen with great martial skills, fighting for justice, honor, and so on. But as for Wei Xiaobo, he cannot really fight. But he's funny, he's clever, and he survives like by using words, tricks, instead of weapons. So yeah, I like his humor, his creativity, the fact that he doesn't fit with most of the wuxia, plus like very courageous and very skilled martial artists. So yeah, I would choose this one, this character. And thank you, you found the one of the many series that have been adapted from these novels. And I can give you the Chinese name, and I think that there is an English translation of the novel. I haven't read the English translation, but if any of you is interested, maybe you can look for the English translation. There is no French translation of the book.
Yeah, unfortunately, there appears to be different versions of the book in English. So it's big book also, from what I'm seeing.
Yeah, it's not easy to read. But as many of the actually online Chinese hyperliterature as well. Maybe one can think that it is easy to read because it's very popular, and somehow, as we will probably discuss, somehow industrial in terms of production. But it is quite hard to read if you're not familiar with the vocabulary, the history of China as well. And I think that Jin Yong, this other, whose name is also Louis Cha, is Cantonese name plus an English name, Louis, because he's from Hong Kong, has influenced a lot online Chinese SFF literature.
Okay, thank you for the reference. So okay, Wei Xiaobo, and I'll put it in the comment too.
That was good, Romain. Actually, your pronunciation is well.
Sorry?
I mean, your pronunciation in Chinese is good.
Well, I don't have the tongue, so, but I can deal with the letters in pinyin.
With the pinyin, right? Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you for the introduction and thank you for the reference. So we have a set of questions, but the goal is to have a global conversation. So nothing is mandatory. We are aiming to have between 60 minutes and 90 minutes. We usually do. So do not feel limited in your answer and in your talks. So as we were preparing, we're thinking first about introducing the subjects and defining it. So the first question that comes to mind would be, what are the forms and themes of what we're going to talk about? So Chinese, specifically online science fiction works, and how big are we talking in terms of audience, in terms of activity, in terms of numbers of writers, etc.? Any one of you, if you have any?
Well, I can begin with the idea of the platforms and maybe the audience, and maybe Julie can talk more about the themes, if you are okay with it. Okay,
If you
so
want.
basically, what we call Chinese online literature or cyber literature, and SFF is inside of this big field, are mainly serialized novels. So a lot of novels together, put together, published on online platforms, like Qidian, Jinjiang in Chinese. I will give you some links if you would like. And they actually, the estimated audience is massive, because you have now, according to the last reports in China, around 500 million readers. So that's a lot. It is actually more than half of Chinese internet users. So as speculative fiction, I would say in English, like SFF fiction, representing over half of all online works. So basically, you have more than 500 million people in China reading science fiction, fantasy, and all kind of so-called Chinese fantasy fiction. So yeah, it's very massive, it's huge. And in terms of how many novels do you have, that's a lot, so I can't tell it very in details, but you have more than maybe 10 million works or so on these platforms. So that's very huge, actually. Of course, it will make a lot of French publishers jealous, the fact that you have potentially 500 million of people reading your work. So it doesn't work the same. Maybe we can discuss it later, but basically it's like online fiction for online users, internet users, online readers. So it is written for to be on internet, and mostly on online platforms. And when it is very successful, it can be also printed into books, but it is not intended to be printed at first. First is for online users, so to be read on smartphones, computers, and so on.
Okay. Okay, thank you for this one. Yes, the numbers are always impressive when we're talking about when we're comparing to localized European publishing areas.
Actually, even in proportion, I mean, it's like more than half of internet users, but you really can't stay the same for French internet users, actually. I think that, yeah, there are not so many, even in proportion, so many French online readers, or, for instance, or even American ones and so on.
Even if we're speaking specifically for SFF online in China, there is 70% who are reading SFF online. It's really the genre that is the most read online on this platform.
Yeah, that's staggering. Yes, that's very impressive.
That's really impressive, and that's and the way it's working, it's really made for them to be addicted to it. Like, it's episodic, so every day they have a new chapter, So it's hooked with cliffhanger, and it's a fast production without interaction, and it contracts with traditional print. So obviously, they're on their phone and they're like, "Oh yes, I want to read it again," and I like it. It's good. So yes, it works.
Yeah, it does. Okay, so that's in this way. It is similar to how other online translations of other kinds of work, like comic books, like web comics, or what happens with the manga and manga area. So, and it's also mostly it's read on the phone.
Yes.
Okay.
Mostly no, yeah. But actually, what Julie said is
on application on mobile phone, like it can be on Weibo, which is the equivalent of Twitter, or things like this. It can be on QQ or but the biggest one is Chijen or Jinjiang.
Do not hesitate.
You also have APP to read this kind of literature. So what Julie says is that the fact that actually all the series are organized into chapters, with each series running into maybe several million Chinese characters, I mean sinograms. So in French or in English, it will be the equivalent of several thousand pages if translated. So it's actually a lot, but it is divided or organized into into short chapters. So you have this cliffhanger effect that Julie mentioned. The fact also that is quite interactive in terms of the format, because chapters are posted in real time, and then you have a lot of readers' comments, votes, donate, all influence the story's direction, actually. So as a writer, you also have to take into consideration the fact that readers are happy or not with the evolution of the story, with depicting of any character of landscape and so on. So you are supposed also to rely on readers' comments, readers' criticism, and then you have to change if readers are not happy with the story. So it is very reader oriented, which is quite different, obviously, with traditional literary forms.
Okay. And I do have a subsequent question then. Is there an editing process? Is this getting professionalized because there are platforms and it's serialized and it is rhythmic? It has to come out every week or every month, I would guess. It's not always the same. But so is it mainly a writer's work, or are there already publishers who try to who impose this high rhythm to the artist? Or are we talking about something that is mainly amateur and people just work this way because it's globally how it has to work?
Most of the authors on the platforms are amateurs. Basically they are my age. They are between 19 and 39. So yes.
Yeah. Okay.
They are basically around our age.
Okay.
Yes. Basically,
yeah.
Basically, they are amateur. But then, if the story encounters a success, they can sign a contract, and then they will have someone behind their back who can say, "You have to change things."
Okay. So that kind of make me that was kind of a bridge.
But you can encounter you can meet some. There are some type of there are some type of there are some types of writers who will auto-censor their works at the very beginning. So that means that they will use euphemism, or they will use pinyin to not use we lost Gwennaël.
Gwennaël, he's gonna come back. That's we are real. Okay.
Do not use the character.
Yeah.
Do not write a character.
Okay. That's interesting. We so globally, I would guess that many of them also have the ambition of maybe being spotted for publication, and therefore they format their work in advance so that it can be adapted easily, and so that nothing gets in the way in terms of being too weird or too political or this kind of things. Okay, so, and you already kind of answered. Gwennaël's back. You back, Gwennaël. And you already kind of already answered the next question, which was, is there a typical kind of writer for this kind of writing? So mainly young people, female young people, maybe, as is the case often in the Western world with this kind of literature.
It really depends, actually. But there is actually a word in Chinese that depicts Chinese online writers. The word is 写手 in Chinese. I read it to you, which is not the same for traditional literature, which is 作家 mainly. And so there is a big difference between 写手 and 作家. The idea is that 写手 is much more like a code word worker or scribbler, I would say. And unlike 作家, the traditional concept or term for a writer, actually the 写手 writes according to what readers want. So there's this kind of self-ironic depiction of what they do. They are not like traditional writers, but much more literature workers, I would say, because they are very self-conscious about the fact that unlike 作家 who writes according to their own artistic vision, they do write, and they openly say that they do write what readers and what platforms want. So as Julie mentioned, there is a strong self-censorship in among these writers because they know what they can write about and what they can't write about. There is still reader-oriented censorship, or readers are censoring some content as well if they notice any kind of content that is politically incorrect or politically unnecessary or problematic. So they would contact the platform, and then the platform will react to that and then censor the series. But actually, as far as I know, there is not direct censorship in the platform, but most are self-censorship. And they actually do know that, okay, if they want to write something very political, it won't be online. It will be through different ways, not in online platforms. So, and as for the editing part, actually, the platform is very light on these parts, so it won't edit a lot. sometimes maybe the typos or the coherence of the series. But yeah, there is no like, according to what I know, but there is no like a very strong editor writer cooperation or collaboration on that.
Okay.
But as it is the same with traditional literature in China, a part of the censorship thing, there is no something like we have in France, for instance, a very strong collaboration between an editor and a writer. So yeah.
Okay, that's interesting, because that's a major difference from how we do things here, and in terms of individual responsibility, I would imagine. So that the writers are much more exposed, maybe more legally responsible. I can guess. But okay. So.
But actually, there are some examples of series that have been censored after the release, and it's really it relies on the different, I mean, the political atmosphere in China. So basically, I worked when I was in Brussels on a online series, Liu Cixin in Chinese, and it was out, it was released, it was public that time. And then, but we can discuss it later. But then governments or official institutions decided that the travel time literature, the alternative history literature, was politically problematic, politically, yeah, I mean, it was not politically acceptable. So then they closed some, not platforms, but some series that were not available anymore. So it also can be something retroactive, I would say. Not at the moment, but maybe a few years after the release. So it also can happen.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for the precision. I was going to jump to the next question and dive into to something that maybe we might be a bit new to this, but it could be interesting to notice to our listeners what element distinguish Chinese online fantasy from Western fantasy, if there is any, but I would guess there are. So yeah, maybe you can tell us a little bit about this. Either one of you.
Well, it's shaping in the fact in mythology. Gwennaël, okay, it's here. It's shaping mythology in its folklore. For in the legends and folk tales. For example, they have folk spirits. We don't have them in Europe. In Europe, we don't have folk spirits. We don't have immortals. No? We don't have spirits, demons. We don't have them. They have Taoism and cosmology, martial art tradition.
Okay.
And they like to blend genre.
Okay, but that's okay. So pretty much they rely on the Chinese mythology, which but the blending of genre. How would you could you develop on this, because this seems a little interesting.
I would say it's
You can say it in French if you have too much trouble, and I can try to translate it.
Or I can try to explain a little bit, and then Julie can also fill with more information if you want.
Okay.
Actually, if you go to the English website I shared the links to, you can see that there are lots of, in the left part of your screen, you have a lot of different genres and sub-genres. Some of them could seem to be the same in French. You have something that is 玄幻 and then 奇幻 and then 仙侠 and 玄侠 in Chinese, but that are massive. I mean, you have some thousands or even 10,000 of works that can be translated like Chinese fantasy or Chinese Taoist fantasy, and all of these genres have strong criteria, strong codes to be a part of a different genre. And what is quite interesting is the fact that even if they draw, some of them, heavily on Chinese classics, or as Julie said, on Taoist Buddhist cosmologies, they are actually quite different as well. I mean, you have a lot of subgenres, you have a lot of details to define if this particular series is a 玄侠 novel, so a Chinese-oriented fantasy novel, or a Chinese Taoist novels. What you have to understand is the fact that on online literature, cyber literature fields, it is very divided into genres. So you have to feel, if you are a writer, to the criteria, the conditions, the code, the literary codes, the linguistic codes of the genre you are trying to fill with your series, you are trying to put your series on. So this is something different, not only in terms of content, not only in terms of imaginaries, but also in terms of format. So if you're an online Chinese science fiction writer, you have to be very clear on the subgenre that you are working on, that you are trying to write. So this is something quite different from the Western, I would say, Western fantasy that is more transversal, I would say. But of course, what we have to remain or to remind is the fact that not all Western fantasies are the same, and it is also the case for the Chinese fantasy fiction. Of course, we also have demons in Western fantasy, or you have a lot of, and what is interesting is that even in China, you also have a lot of what we will say is very Western fantasy imaginary as well. And maybe we'll talk about that you have a lot of Harry Potter-like fantasy fiction, very Tolkien-like fantasy fiction, and so on. But mainly what is, I think, to me, a great difference between science fiction fantasy in Chinese hyper literature is the fact that it has to be very coded, to be very respectful to some of the codes, and readers are looking for that. And they know that what they are going to read is this particular genre or subgenre. But Julie, you can add more information if you want.
Yes. Okay. So the fact I'm coming back on the fact blending of genre. So on the site you can see all the genre, and you can and under the book you want to read, you have the subgenre. It appartient.
So you have, for each book, you have the subgenre.
Yes.
It corresponds to.
It corresponds to. So, but you have books who has more than one subgenre.
Mm-hmm.
It can has sci-fi and ciencia, and like 3 subgenres. So in that case, it's called a blending of genres,
Okay.
and that's why they are trying to blend them. And when they are trying to do it, they are trying to do it respectfully.
Mm. Okay.
So it's trying to have for example, it's trying to have a sciential world building with the horror of horror theme book.
Okay. So it does sound very similar to how fan fiction sites worked back in the days, when you have multiple tags basically, but there were also categories on the website, and it could be very, very precise, and one text would easily have between 5 and 10 of these tags, so people would find exactly what they were looking for. And it does ring similar to this kind of culture, literary culture.
It can look
completely.
It can look like that. In that way, it can look like that.
Okay.
I think the main difference is the fact that it is very professional somehow. Actually, what we didn't mention earlier is the fact that most of the biggest successes right now in China in terms of literary success are from online fiction. So if you look for, the numbers of literary writers and the richest actually writers in China are online writers, and far from the traditional writers. So what is different is that maybe it is very similar to fan fiction, or to what was fan fiction decades ago or years ago in France. So it has a common structure, but it is very organized in China, and it is labeling, or as you say, it's tagged literature, and readers are expecting that. So it's very hard actually in the sense that you have to feel, and you have to you have to be respectful to a lot of codes, of conditions of writing, but readers are aware of that, and they are looking for that. So it's not fan fiction, but it is very code related, glossary related, structured related fiction.
It's like a big dictionary.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for the precision. Yeah, of course it's not fan fiction, but it's it's this and someone said in the chat, yeah, it's not back in the day, it's still going on like this, of course, but that's because I'm old. And okay, so that was very thorough. Thank you very much. And we're just gonna keep on the next subject we're talking about. So we were also wondering about how it articulates with the printed science fiction or printed fantasy that is existing and thriving in China. Is it very, do the two kind of publishing, online and printed, hugely influence one another? Is there a dominance of one upon the other, or are they two separate industries that try to ignore each other? We already kind of answered that, but maybe we can also be more precise about this.
Ray, would you like, or I can begin and then you can add more on that. Actually, it basically it operates largely as two distinct models. But as far as I know, a lot of Chinese online writers are very aware of Chinese printed science fiction literature. Some of them are big fans of Liu Cixin, for instance. And as far as I know, printed science fiction writers are also very aware about Chinese online literature, new genres, um, big success, and so on. But actually, what is interesting is that printed SF right now in China is tends to be more literary, I would say, even if it's not a good word to depict this kind of literature. I mean, of course, online fiction is also very literary. That's not what I mean, but it experiments more in terms of narrative form, philosophical, political issues, than online literature, which is more standardized, I would say. And some of actually printed SF writers, like Chen Jiufan, for instance, sometimes writes online pieces, but usually by invitation of platforms or collaborations with platforms, and it remains rare. Online SF, by contrast, follows a more, let's say, commercial, serialized model with rapid updates, long sagas, as I said, strong reader orientation. So actually, they're very operating as two very distinct models. It's not the same, but as far as I know, they are well aware about what is published in printed literature for the big writers, and the same in the other side.
Yes, so they are really different in their approach, but they complete each other in the way where we still have writers from online SFF who will take inspiration from the big three authors from science fiction. They will. What I wanted to say too.
There are they do not ignore each other, but globally, still separate path.
Yes, there is also a concours.
Competition? I don't know.
Competition.
Wait. Yes, there is competition who is there to
you can say it
You
in
mean
French.
like literary awards?
A literary awards to prize a work online, but I don't remember. I think it started in 2017. I don't remember the exact date.
I know what you mean. I think that there are very famous science fiction awards in China, like what they call Nebula, actually, Xingyuan, and Info Galaxy Award, that recently have taken into account Chinese online science fiction as well. But it was very recent, much later than the birth, let's say, of Chinese online science fiction. So it is more and more accepted, legitimized in the Chinese science fiction field, but it is something recent. Until maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago, it was often seen as bad literature by the Chinese traditional science fiction field. And right now, because you can't do without it in terms of readership, in terms of platforms, in terms of adaptation also into web series, into video games, you can do it. Yeah, you can do it without it. So, okay, I think that I'm offline.
No, we're here.
Sorry.
We're you,
I went
but
offline,
we
right?
don't see you.
But just
Okay.
your
I went
image,
offline, sorry.
your image.
Okay, so
froze
yeah,
in-
basically you have a word right now, traditional big science fiction award in China that are counting on online literature.
Mm. Okay.
Maybe it was what you meant. I don't know, Julie.
I don't think that was that one, but maybe I'm sure I noted it. I noted this one, but
You can if it comes back to you, we can go back to it later. Don't worry. And
okay.
just to say, so if there's any other references you want to give to the audience, we can also, and if you cannot get it right now, it's really not a big deal. We can also put it in the description of the replay, so that people can have access to it later. So that's do not worry if you have precise things you want to say or dates, or we can add it later. So don't worry. So thank you for this one, and we can. Oh, sorry. So as far as we are talking about this subgenre, if there are some that are the most popular right now on online science fiction or cyber literature, perhaps, so that we can get a more concrete feeling of what is popular in this on this field.
It depends on the period actually. Right now, maybe it includes 仙侠 or 玄幻. So this kind of Chinese flavored fantasy.仙侠is more like immortal cultivation fantasy, which is more Taoist or Buddhist oriented. But a few times ago, formerly, there was a dominant genre, as far as I know, was 穿越, which was 穿越 in Chinese, so time travel fiction. But it has declined sharply since maybe 10 years ago due to government restrictions, accusing this genre of historical nihilism or promoting escapism. So actually, there was a big trend on 穿越, on time travel fiction. And maybe some of you have seen some dramas, Chinese dramas on that theme. But it's not trendy now because it has been, let's say, forbidden or restricted by Chinese officials, because they pretended that it was a kind of escapism, a kind of denying history. So now platforms discourage this kind of pure time travel plots. So what is interesting is that what we said in the platform, you have a lot of subgenres, of categories, and now many writers actually disguise this kind of time travel plots as fantasy worlds or parallel universes. But now you can't find, or maybe it's harder to find, time travel fiction as a category, but it is maybe hidden behind some fantasy novels, historical novels, war, and so on novels. So it's kind of interesting that the fact that there are some trends, some popular subgenres, but it is also driven by politics in China as well.
Okay.
Yeah. I do think it's Xianxia and Wuxia that are that are the most popular among the subgenre online at the moment. I mean, when I was doing my little quiz for my master thesis last year, when I asked people online what they were reading, it was xianxia and wuxia that came up the most.
So just to recall, xianxia would be because I think we're giving up terms, but maybe
xianxia is with the people who it's fantasy based on Taoist and Buddhist law. It's people who wants to cultivate and it's immortal cultivation.
Okay.
And wuxia, it's traditional martial arts. Adventure.
Yeah. What? Yeah. Okay. And so, well, the little bits that we can see appear in Western world are often derived from wuxia, and we see this influence So okay. Just as what you said, Gwennaël, it's interesting because what we have noticed in Hikaya doing our research abroad is that how there was a trend of alternative history in sci-fi, either historically or in the future. But it's interesting that you said that there was this kind of trend in China, but it was untrended by the government, basically, forcefully untrended. And so that kind of rang a bell to me too, because it's something we saw in many places.
I mean, as far as you're dealing with history, it also raises a lot of questions about the present time. I mean, if you're writing science fiction, you're also dealing with the present time. But the fact is that, especially maybe in China, you have a very strong control by the party on the history, and it actually concerns the past, but also the present or the recent past and the future. So even when alternative history fiction or 穿越 means like time travel fiction were trendy, there were some periods that were maybe it was not comfortable to deal with it. So you had some periods like the Ming Dynasty, a time where China, let's say that time China, so it was not China in the common sense, but let's say China was very flourishing in terms of culture, diplomacy, and so on. So it was good to write on that about that time. But if you want to deal with like Yuan Dynasty, I mean the Mongol dynasty in China, it was very hard to do and to write stories about, or it is also very hard to write on cultural revolution, for instance. Of course, you have different period of time. It can be very recent ones, but also ancient ones. So even when people can write and can read time travel fiction, alternate history fiction, it has to be on very particular periods of time. Otherwise, yeah, you can have some problems with censorship.
Okay.
But people are very aware about that. So when I was in Brussels during my postdoctoral research, I worked on an alternative history fiction series. And what was maybe much more interesting than the series itself was the forums, the discussions among readers. How do they project, or how do they imagine the fact that it can happen in right now China, dealing with political issues, with elections, with choosing their own government. So, of course, as all fantasy science fiction works, it also tells us something about the present. And sometimes what is more interesting as a sinologist or as a researcher was how do people talk about and discuss about the series than the series itself.
Yeah, and it does echo with another conference we had last week about Iranian fantasy and sci-fi, and about also the different ways writers can talk about actual history or present society with using the pretext of fantasy or the pretext of speculative fiction. And so that's something that comes out a lot when talking with writers and genre writers, fantasy writers and sci-fi writers, especially in heavy government censorship countries, about how these are used as a way to bypass censorship people who have not the sensibility with fantasy, and so you can kind of play with that, and that it's always a how it's always a contradiction. But that's I thought that was very interesting. But we had an incredible time last week with Iranian writers, so just a bit of advertising for us here, but there are many connections to be made, I think. So to jump on our next question, but so that was more. We also wanted to talk about the notion of underground culture, because we are seeing a lot of sci-fi and fantasy literature adapted in the Western world from China. Not a lot, but it's starting to come with sci-fi, and we have romantasy, have comic books, we have illustrated novels, and we obviously have the mainstream part of the movement mostly. And I wanted to ask you, how would you say this mainstream sci-fi interact with the more underground online production? So we kind of talked about it already, but if there's a notion of it being an underground production, so something that is more amateur, but also something where you can go pick new talents and so I don't want to.
So yeah, basically it's difficult to, but maybe Julie can also say a few things about. It's difficult to speak of a true underground SFF scene in China, because actually most of offline production, even fanfics, take place on major commercial platforms or in large forums, actually, or fan communities that are relatively visible, actually. So even fact fiction collective projects emerge from public discussion boards rather than, I would say, clandestine spaces. So this means that like mainstream or grassroots SFF coexist at the same time. Others may start like as amateur, as we said earlier, and if successful, they become contracted writers. So yeah, rather than the position, I would say that the relationship is one of continuum, circulation, and then audience feedback, market success drive, and what becomes mainstream and so on. But most of the underground production is supposed to be successful one day. So the idea is that as for amateur CSO, even if you are not very successful writer, for now, their goal is to become a successful contracted writer. In terms of political underground scene, this is not online, obviously, because online is internet is the best way to control people or to know what is going on. So what is interesting is that a lot of Chinese science fiction writers, some of them are friends of mine, are exchanging some works, but not through internet or maybe through mails, but they're not going online with it. So you have some friends, Chinese or writers or friends who do have at least 3 different versions of their books. One for the online market, I would say, one for maybe the printed version, and one for their friends. And then you can, see the difference between 3. So the underground is much more offline, I would say, than online. But maybe usually
Yes.
can contradict me on this.
I mean, you're right on this, but you can see that it's practically like this on a lot of things, except if you want to really talk about political things, which you won't if you won't talk about these kind of things in your novel. You won't talk about political things. You won't write it right away. It will be really disguised, and it's. I mean, it will be. If you want to write something really deep and really critical, you won't write it online. As you said, you write it on offline, and it's going to be bypassed by mail or things like this. You will have to make connection, and it's by resulting that you get published when it's something
Networking.
That you get published. But when everything is online, it's not really. You can say that mainstream and underground are not visible, really, because you open QQ, you open Weibo, you see them. Really, it's really and the fan are always behind them, so you have a really strong fan base. So you always have doodles or things like that. We will promote them, and it's the way they promote them that helps them, in fact. It's the work of a lot of people.
Okay. Okay, thank you for your answer. And I wanted to, so the next question is kind of a rebound on the others, and so I will allow myself to go through it unless you have a problem with it, and go straight to the next one, which has more to do with your research, Julie, because online and amateur literature in the West, but not only in the West, because we saw it in Japan and Korea too, they have a long tradition of showing non-hetero characters or non-cisgenre characters. That we saw that in Japanese doujinshi, in Western fan fiction, or original fiction on the same format. We saw this in fanzines, printed fanzines. So we're wondering if it was, the same in cyber literature, in Chinese cyber literature.
You can find them in some Chinese science fiction literature. In Danmei, you can find them. We have some Danmei that have been translated in French. That are some wuxia.
Okay.
So it's
Sorry.
a type of.
So danmei.
Danmei are boys' love.
Okay.
So
in the chat box, the chat thread.
So the danmei that I'm talking about are also some wuxia. So there are also martial art fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And now they are translated in French. We can find them in our library. But they are the first one we can find in France. So it's really recent.
Okay.
If we talk about yes, modal Wusche, it's this one.
Okay, sorry, I'm gonna add it in the comments. Trying to put in as many references.
I'm giving some references in the comment box.
It was first translated in English, but now we have it was first translated in English, and now it's translated in French, but it's not translated from Chinese. It's translated in French from the English version. So we're losing some of the Chinese.
That's unfortunate. And unfortunately, we were talking yesterday with our French guest how many non-French texts that are brought from non-English speaking countries are still actually translated from English versions. So we're losing things here. And I don't know, Gwennaël, if you wanted to add something to the subject, of Julie, if you wanted to add another precision.
So yes, we have that. We have this one, but it's we can online we can find a lot of danmei.
Mm-hmm.
We can find a lot of danmei in all genres.
Mm-hmm.
Not specifically in science fiction, really, but it's where you have the more.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The more it will be in science fiction. And but if you want something more niche, like les bailleux, well, this one are not translated, and there are less written about. So
this one are
bailleux are about lesbians.
Okay.
So
more niche.
More niche and
I think the fact is that in China, so as you have understood, the fact is it's very controlled what is published online, and in China, for instance, explicit sexual content, just like political messaging, actually is removed to pass platform moderation. So you have a lot of recent crackdowns with the deletion of some high successful danmei works, actually. So actually, danmei is a genre that allows readers to queer some mainstream characters, even historical ones, to explore some, let's say, forbidden desires, but without explicit scenes that are moderated, removed. So it is also something on, or can be or can be read as quite a light queer fiction, because it has to deal with the censorship. So also implies a lot of friendship between guys, between males, or between females, and everyone knows what it is about, but you can't write it. But it is very well known, so everyone, any reader knows what it is about. It's about the querying the characters and so on. But you don't have any explicit content. So it is actually quite interesting, but it may be the same for a lot of Japanese light novels as well, or some mangas like yaoi. But in China, you don't have, or you can't find very explicit content in terms of sexual content. But what is intriguing is that there are more. The more the constraints are, the more creative you need to be. So sometimes it's very poetic or it's very creative because you have to tell but don't show some sexual relationship. So it is very poetic. It's very lyric, but it's not it's not very showable, I would say.
Yeah, it has to be very indirect, I would say.
But everybody knows, what you're writing about. But they have some, there were some deletions. There were some arrests, even in recent times, of Danmei writers, even the most successful ones. So just like time travel fiction, it's also getting known by government-based institutions as well.
There was. And if I remember correctly, the writer Mo Xiongtong, the one who wrote Modao had to edit 5 times her work before getting published in China. So I think getting a work published in it had to be it was published in Taiwan first, I think.
Okay.
So yeah, she made a lot of rewriting. So yeah,
yes,
it was to adapt. And,
they have to to adapt to the situation. I can guess. That's so that way. Yeah, that was also
fine.
That's so. Would you? Yeah. At the end, the fact that it's that it's online doesn't really solve the problem, so to speak. They do.
No.
Okay.
I know there was a web novel that was recommending to me by someone, and when I started reading it, it was really hard for me to read it because a lot of words were auto-censored. So it was self-censored because it was written. You had pinyin, and then you had a character, and the sentence continued. Third, pinyin, character, pinyin, and I was like, okay, I have to guess.
So for non-Chinese reading audience,
so sometimes for non-Chinese it can be hard to read.
But pinyin are the are transliterations of Chinese words in Latin alphabet for people who miss the thing. And so you said they are a way for authors to avoid provoking the algorithm or something like, or
Yes.
yes.
Or sometimes they use some asterisks too.
Yeah.
They use a pin from and use an asterisk
Okay.
to.
So they
So
mix.
playing with words
Yeah.
is very common in Chinese internet
Yes.
culture. So it has been the case for many years right now. Like playing with the sounds of words. So it's also kind of play. I mean, even if the writer are very well aware about the sensitive issues that they are dealing with, they know that is also something that people want. I mean, readers want. And everyone, I mean, even the censors actually are quite aware about that reality. And the fact that you're playing with words, you're playing with, like you said, the pins or the romanization system, so basically the Chinese sounds written in Latin alphabet, is also something that is part of the different criteria of novels like Dan May. But sometimes the government has to show off and say like, no, it's not possible anymore. But
Yes.
I mean, most of the Chinese readers are very aware about that.
Okay.
Actually, it's just like homosexuality. You say, okay, it doesn't exist, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. You're just saying it, right?
Yeah.
It's basically the same for literature.
Yeah. So, sometimes someone needs to show they have muscles, and someone in the okay. Thank you very much. That was very insightful. It's true that playing with different writing systems to try to get around this kind of things is something that is possible in China. It is not something that we're accustomed to here, but of course, that's a great.
Thing.
Yeah, and so I don't know, maybe using ideograms in French can one day be used to I don't know, to trump online algorithm too. We are almost almost 80 minutes into the talk. So, and we have pretty much tackled every subject, because the last question was about how the platforms influence the work of Chinese writers, and we've already talked about it, actually. And I'm gonna check if we have questions from the audience, but I don't think I saw any at this point. So yes, we're. I'm gonna start the end of the talk. If you have any things you might want to add or reference you might want to give, and if you have anything you want to say to our writers. Oh wait, we do have the questions actually. Sorry. So we have a question from someone who asks if you have any advice in general for people who want to become literary translators from Chinese, and especially how to get prepared for this. How to become more acquainted with Chinese culture and literature, basically. So, big subject, big questions.
First of course, is to learn Chinese, but I guess that maybe Donatella, you're learning Chinese or reading Chinese. I think that the best comment I can do, best recommendation I can do for people who want to be literary translators is to read a lot, even in Chinese or in Italian, if you're Italian, or in the language that you are translating into. Because actually, every book is different from another, even from the same writer. So what I think, that's my opinion, what you need to understand about a book and about how to translate it is the way it differs from the different in the same language. So it's something on the vocabulary, the lexicon, of course, obviously, but the most important, I guess, is the fact that this book is one particular book among a lot of different books. And for that, you have also to be aware or to be familiar with other books from this writer and the other books from this particular genre, and the books that are within this genre but in other languages. So, for instance, if you want to translate some science fiction books, I think that one of the most important aspect is to read science fiction yourself, to know what is especially science fiction, I would say, because it's like a big mega text, you know. If you want to know about lightsaber, about time travel and so on, you have to be aware about the glossary in your own language to translate these kind of works. And I think that I went offline, so I don't know if
No,
you
we're
guys
still.
have heard.
You're still there.
Okay,
You're still there.
you're still there.
We
Okay,
heard
so
it.
yeah, I mean, the only good recommendation is to read both in Chinese and in the language you're planning to translate into. And then if you can, of course, it's better to live or to have some experience in the country, to talk with people, reading this kind of literature and so on. But it's quite obvious, I guess.
So yeah. Thank you, Gwennaël. Checking if there is any other question I might have missed.
And good
Gwennaël,
luck. I mean, if Donatella wants to be translator, that's great. So good luck with your projects.
yeah, please bring in projects. Get more. Yeah, we need people who go out and find texts from area that are not Western English-speaking countries. They do great things, but again, we at Confluences and Hikaya, but with these talks, we really want to emphasize the fact that there are sci-fi and fantasy everywhere. We can read it from everywhere, and we can talk to each other, and we can try to understand, and that it's really a huge literary world that is to be discovered, especially by us French people who can be hard to convince. I think we are gonna end this talk on this, if it's all right with you. So thank you so much, you two, for for being here, for giving us your knowledge and insights on this subject. I must say that I learned a great deal of things, because that's really an area I'm not familiar with, and I think our audience really enjoyed it too. We will keep on having talks next week, and especially next Tuesday. We're going to talk about. We're going to go back to French publishing, with French publishers talking about specificities of French fantasy here. So with Dimitri Pavlovsky from Les Éditions de l'Homme Sans Nom, and with Thomas Fouchot from Édition 1115, and that will be very interesting too. So see you then. It would be at 7 p.m. as usual, on the same channels as usual. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great evening, or a great midday, or a great breakfast, whenever you're watching this. The replays can be watched on YouTube and Twitch, on the Hikaya channels. So you can check there. And thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.